We're diving into why the spine-tingling, soundless thrills of A Quiet Place movies blow the virtual socks off the SAO anime series. If you thought SAO was even close to being good, it's time to wake up. A Quiet Place is a 2018 American horror film. It's directed by John Krasinski and written by John Krasinski, Brian Woods, and Scott Beck. The movie stars John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, Millicent Simmons, and Noah Jupe. A Quiet Place follows a family of 4 who must live life in silence while hiding from creatures that hunt by sound. Something that's really unique about this movie is that there's barely any dialogue. There's only about 2 or 3 scenes in the entire movie where the characters actually talk. The rest of the time, the characters have to communicate using sign language. Since you can't speak, the actors had to use facial expressions or body language in order to convey their emotions or how they were feeling. That's definitely a very difficult thing to do since speaking is the main form of communication. Something else that I also really liked about this movie is that it does a good job showing the audience rather than telling. The movie overall doesn't really straight up tell you much at all. It really only tells you what day it is. The rest of it is up to you to understand what's going on based on whatever else is shown on the screen. Additionally, the creatures themselves are pretty terrifying and scary. I can totally understand why the characters in the movie are so afraid of the creatures. I believe they got Industrial Light and Magic to do the visual effects for this movie, and they definitely did a fantastic job making the creatures very frightening. There's even a bunch of close-up shots of the creatures. Even though this is classified as a horror movie, I would say that it's more of a thriller. It honestly wasn't too scary for me. That's just my opinion, of course. There are quite a few jump scares in this movie, but I feel like they all work pretty well. It's not like there's a jump scare for no reason or anything like that. The movie was pretty intense overall. I felt that it started a bit too slow, but after the first time skip, the movie had a pretty good pace. The movie isn't too long, only about 95 minutes in total, which I felt was a good length. Apart from the beginning, it didn't feel like the movie dragged on too long or anything like that. Additionally, this movie does a great job showing how the people adapt in a situation like this. For example, since you can't make any noise, the characters walk around barefoot. John Krasinski and Emily Blunt both do a fantastic job playing a married couple in this movie. It actually seems pretty believable that they're a couple, and they are actually a married couple in real life, so I guess that's why their performance was so believable. Since John Krasinski and Emily Blunt have kids in real life, protecting their kids in this movie was also very believable. You could tell that they would do anything in order to protect their kids. Speaking of kids, the kids in this movie also did a decent job as well. Usually if you have kids in a movie, they will either make or break the entire movie. Either they do a good job or they completely ruin the movie. I'm happy to say that the kids in this movie were pretty good. Also, the actress who portrays Regan, Millicent Simmons, is actually deaf in real life. It's cool how they got a deaf actress to play a deaf character. I will say that there are a few things in this movie that are a bit questionable. For example, I don't really know why they would choose to have another baby. Babies make a lot of noise, which would not be good for the current situation that they're in. Plus, they already have kids, so I don't really know why they would feel the need to have another kid. But I guess that's really more of a minor nitpick, and it doesn't really affect the overall quality of the movie in the long run. Also, Evelyn is shown to be pregnant in the trailer, so that's not a spoiler. Overall, A Quiet Place is a pretty good movie. I did not love this movie as much as most of the other critics, but it is a very unique movie and I would definitely recommend it. Like I said in the review, the movie did have a bit of a slow start, but after the first time skip, the pacing is pretty good. All of the actors in this movie did a great job. I felt that the movie is pretty intense and the creatures are definitely very terrifying. As I mentioned before, there are a few things that are a bit questionable, but those are really just nitpicks and don't detract too much from the overall story. I'm gonna give A Quiet Place a B. Alright guys, that's it for my review of A Quiet Place. If you've seen the movie, let me know in the comments below how you felt about it. A Quiet Place Part 2 is a 2020 American horror movie. It's a sequel to 2018's A Quiet Place. In this video, I'll break down A Quiet Place Part 2, explain the ending as well as what's next for the franchise. Let's get started. So the main plot of this movie is about Emmett and Regan trying to find a nearby island. After discovering a radio signal that played the song Beyond the Sienna Loop, Regan's goal is to use the radio tower to transmit the high frequency noise that her hearing aid produces, so that the creatures will be weakened, and anyone who picks up the signal can now fight and kill the creatures. We learn that the creatures can't actually swim, they're just going to drown in the water. Emmett and Regan eventually make it to the island, where people are living normal lives, since the creatures can't reach them here. But the next day, Emmett discovers that one of the creatures has drifted to the island on a boat that was carried by the tide. The creature kills several people on the island, but Emmett and Regan are able to lure it to the radio station. Regan switches the audio being played on the radio to the noise from her hearing aid. The creature gets weakened and Regan uses a pole to kill it. Back at the bunker where Evelyn Evelyn, Marcus, and the baby are at. Another creature is attacking them. However, Marcus picks up the signal from the radio and uses it to weaken the creature. He shoots it with a gun and kills the creature. The primary theme of the first Quiet Place movie was parenthood, and it's the opposite here. Now the kids have learned to protect the adults. Anyone who's able to pick up the signal through the radio can now use it to successfully fight and kill the creatures. There are no mid-credits or post-credit scenes. So what's next for the franchise? Well, a third Quiet Place movie is most likely going to happen. In an interview with Collider, Emily Blunt explained that A Quiet Place Part 2 was the second chapter in a trilogy, and John Krasinski already had several ideas for the next movie. Here's what she said. He has a whole arc of ideas that could work. I think he just wanted to see how people responded to this one before he fully engaged his brain on the third one, but he has a couple of great ideas. In fact, John Krasinski doesn't see this movie as a sequel, but rather a continuation of the story from the first movie. Here's what he told The Hollywood Reporter. I didn't see it as a sequel. I saw it as a continuation story, and once I realized I could organically bring back these themes and these storylines from the first one, it didn't feel like a sequel to me, so I purposefully avoided any sequels because I thought I'm just going to treat this like a continuation of the first. Furthermore, John Krasinski mentioned that he kept track of any stray ideas he had for a potential sequel while working on the first Quiet Place movie, and he did the same for A Quiet Place Part 2, even if he might not end up directing the third Quiet Place movie. Here's what he said. So a lot of things I had thought were interesting to think about on Part 1 ended up being in Part 2, and then on Part 2 I learned my lesson very quickly. Anytime I had ideas like that, I wrote them down in case there is ever a Part 3 or a third one, so I would be able to reference some of these things if there is a Part 3, and we even went so far as to put in a couple Easter eggs, so that if I did do a third one, they would connect back to the second one. Even though I'm the guy who did the first two, I won't be the guy or girl who does the last one or the last two. I know that. At the end of the day, this world is really fun to explore. This is an amazing sandbox to play in, and whether or not I'm the guy to do any more of them, or how many more of them, I don't know. But I know that we're really proud of the world we created, and the fact that it's even strong enough to have this conversation about doing more is something we're all really proud of. What would the sequel to A Quiet Place 2 be about? In the first Quiet Place movie, we learned how to kill one of the creatures. In this movie, we learned how to kill a bunch of them at the same time. Maybe the third Quiet Place movie will be about how to get rid of the creatures for good. The military could use the hearing aid signal and fight back. Furthermore, since the creatures can't swim, living on an island should be safe. As long as the creatures don't randomly drift to the island on a boat, the Abbott family could move to a remote island and live there for the rest of their lives. There's definitely more islands full of people, so the sequel could explore that aspect as well. Moreover, Regan was pretty much the main character in A Quiet Place Part 2, and that's probably going to be the same in the sequel. In fact, John Krasinski deliberately rejected a bunch of ideas for the Quiet Place sequel and chose to write the movie himself because he wanted to make Millicent Simmons the lead character of the movie based on the ending of A Quiet Place Part 2. Marcus will probably have a bigger role in the sequel. We could also find out where exactly the creatures come from. We know that the creatures are aliens, but it will be interesting to find out more about their origins. So the bathtub scene and the exposed nail scene in the first Quiet Place movie were the most memorable. However, John Krasinski discussed that he purposefully didn't try to do anything to match those scenes in Part 2. Here's what he said during an interview with The Hollywood Reporter. I thought about that immediately. I thought about all those terrifying ideas that one has for a sequel, and I realized the only way I could do it was to not look at them as problems, and actually not look to match them at all. If I tell the story organically, hopefully one of those moments will show itself because it's newly terrifying, because it's the new nail moment, rather than me trying to build in a nail moment. I looked back at my script and thought, oh, I wonder if that'll be the new nail moment, or whether this will be the new bathtub moment. So I tried to completely erase from my brain the thought process of, how do I beat it? How do I match it? And I just thought, why don't I just tell the story and see what comes out of it? Additionally, it was announced in November 2020 that a spin-off is also in development. Jeff Nichols will write and direct, based on an idea by John Krasinski, who will be producing the movie. All we know so far about the spin-off is that it will somehow be connected to the events of the main Quiet Place movies. Deadline has reported that the movie has a planned 2022 release date. Ultimately, a sequel to A Quiet Place Part 2 will depend on how much money this movie makes at the box office. The first Quiet Place movie made about $340 million on a $17 to $21 million budget, but this movie had a significantly higher budget at $61 million, so it needs to make a lot more money than the first movie to be profitable. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, John Krasinski explained why the sequel cost so much more money to make. It's funny, I had sort of forgone that in my writing of the script because I knew I was writing bigger stuff, and it's funny because I wasn't writing bigger stuff because I wanted a bigger, better, faster, sleeker sequel. I wrote it because I was in the unique position that my characters could no longer live on the farm they lived in, so I couldn't keep it as small as the first one because the barn burns down as you see in the trailer. So once the world expanded, my budget expanded, and it was an organic expansion of the story, which then necessitated an expansion of budget. That said, said, weirdly, I totally now understand why every director says, I could have used more money and more time, so we definitely had a bigger budget. I'm not saying we didn't, but we weirdly felt like we were still under an enormous amount of stress to make our days. But at the end of the day, we were doing much bigger stuff. The opening of the movie is bigger as you've seen in the trailer, and the majority of it was one takes. And in order to do one takes, it costs a lot because there's a lot of rehearsal. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance, and a lot of departments have to be perfect on the day. So it was really exciting, but we were burning through the money very fast, so it still has the indie vibe in my opinion. But I had shot myself in the foot by already writing a bigger movie in the script. Moreover, in an interview with Collider, John Krasinski talked about how he came up with the idea to expand the fictional world of A Quiet Place, and that he's already preparing for a third Quiet Place movie. Here's what he said. It's interesting. I genuinely hadn't thought about a second one when I was doing the first one. However, I really had these questions while I was doing it. I put the fires out in the distance in the first one, and I always thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if we got to explore where those fires lead to? Who's on the other end of those fires? But I never thought that there would be a sequel. So then when I actually came around to writing the sequel, I started with the fires. And so this time, I think when my brain started wondering about questions like, what would this mean later on? I started to write down notes, in case I could prepare myself for a third one. A Quiet Place Part 2 will be out on Paramount Plus in 45 days, so around mid-July. Interestingly enough, the first Quiet Place movie was originally developed as the fourth entry in the Cloverfield franchise, but the studio and screenwriters thought that it would work better as a standalone movie. Maybe a Cloverfield crossover is still possible in the future. Who knows? What did you think of A Quiet Place Part 2? Let me know your opinion in the comments below. I personally thought it was pretty good. Not quite as good as the first Quiet Place movie, but it was still very tense and thrilling to watch. I'm definitely looking forward to the sequel and spin-off. Be sure to check out some of the other Ending Explained videos on this channel.
As you can see, A Quiet Place uses silence to build real tension, while Sword Art Online relies on loud, flashy battles that get boring fast. The quiet moments in A Quiet Place are packed with suspense, making you hold your breath and cling to the edge of your seat. On the other hand, SAO bombards you with noisy, over-the-top action scenes that quickly lose their impact. It's a clear example of how less can be more when it comes to creating real, gripping drama. The characters in A Quiet Place are deep and make you care, unlike SAO's flat, forgettable cast. Every character in A Quiet Place has a purpose and adds to the story's emotional weight. You genuinely worry about their fate. In contrast, SAO is filled with characters that feel more like cardboard cutouts than real people. They lack depth and development, making it hard to invest in their journeys. A Quiet Place has a smart, well-thought-out plot, whereas SAO is full of plot holes and lazy writing. The story in A Quiet Place is tight and coherent, with every detail contributing to the larger narrative. SAO, however, feels like it's constantly making things up as it goes along, leading to countless inconsistencies and unbelievable twists. It's frustrating to watch a show that doesn't seem to respect its own story. Every scene in A Quiet Place feels important, but SAO wastes time on pointless side stories. In A Quiet Place, every moment is crucial, driving the plot forward and heightening the tension. Meanwhile, SAO often drifts off into irrelevant subplots that do nothing to advance the main story. It's a waste of time and energy that could be better spent on meaningful character and plot development. The acting in A Quiet Place is top-notch, making you feel every emotion, unlike SAO's over-the-top, cringeworthy performances. The cast of A Quiet Place delivers powerful, nuanced performances that draw you into their world. SAO's voice acting, on the other hand, is often exaggerated and unconvincing, pulling you out of the story rather than immersing you in it. A Quiet Place knows how to be scary and suspenseful without a ton of dialogue, while SAO can't stop talking nonsense. The minimal dialogue in A Quiet Place adds to its eerie, unsettling atmosphere. SAO seems to think that more dialogue equals better storytelling, but it often results in characters spouting nonsense that adds nothing to the story. Finally, A Quiet Place respects its audience's intelligence, but SAO treats viewers like they can't follow a simple story. A Quiet Place trusts you to pick up on subtle cues and piece things together, making for a more engaging and rewarding experience. In contrast, SAO often over-explains things, as if viewers need their hands held to understand even the simplest plot points. It's insulting and makes the show feel juvenile. If you want to experience a version of Sword Art Online that doesn't absolutely suck, watch the SAO Abridged series by Something Witty Entertainment. It takes the dumpster fire that is SAO and actually makes it good. Here's a review.
Hey, anime fans. Are you tired of watching Sword Art Online and feeling like something's just not quite right? Maybe the show is taking itself too seriously, or the characters are a bit too bland. Well, fear not, my friends, because today we're going to talk about why SAO Abridged is the parody series we all need and deserve. Trust me, this is the Sword Art Online we all wish we we could have watched the first time around. So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh your socks off as we dive into why SAO Abridged is so much better than the original. Sword Art Online is an anime series that follows the story of a group of players trapped inside a virtual reality game. SAO Abridged is a parody series that takes the basic premise of the original and turns it into a hilarious comedy. SAO Abridged is widely considered to be better than the original because it improves on several key aspects of the show. The characters are more interesting and likable, the writing is clever and full of witty one-liners, and the voice acting is fantastic. Additionally, SAO Abridged pays attention to details and references to pop culture and video games. But perhaps the biggest reason why SAO Abridged is so much better than the original is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. The creators are fully aware of the flaws in the original series and aren't afraid to call them out, making for a parody that can be funny while still retaining the essence of the original. SAO Abridged also takes the bland characters of the original series and turns them into real people with quirks, flaws, and personalities that make them easy to root for and care about. You'll laugh with them, you'll cry with them, and most importantly, you won't be bored to tears by them. The writing in SAO Abridged is like a masterclass in comedy. The writers take the serious moments of the original series and turn them on their head with clever jokes and witty one-liners. It's like they took the original script and sprinkled it with a healthy dose of funny juice. The jokes in SAO Abridged also often poke fun at video game and anime tropes, which adds an extra layer of humor for fans of those genres. It's like the writers are winking at the audience, saying we know this is ridiculous, but let's have fun with it anyway. The writing in SAO Abridged is sharp, clever, and full of laugh-out-loud moments that will have you quoting lines for days. It's like watching a stand-up comedy routine, but with swords and magic instead of a microphone. You know how some comedies feel like they're trying too hard? Like the writers are desperately trying to squeeze a laugh out of every scene, no matter how awkward or out of place the joke may be. Well, that's definitely not the case with SAO Abridged. The humor in SAO Abridged is never forced, because it feels like a natural extension of the characters and situations. The jokes are woven seamlessly into the dialogue and action, and they never feel like they're just there for the sake of a cheap laugh. In fact, the humor in SAO Abridged often arises from the characters' personalities and interactions, and the situations they find themselves in, whether it's fighting a giant boss or just hanging out in a virtual bar, are ripe for humorous commentary and jokes. The result is a series that feels like a natural blend of drama and comedy, where the humor is never forced and always feels like it belongs. It's like the writers are saying we're not just here to make you laugh, we're here to tell a story too, and that's what makes SAO Abridged so special. The voice acting in SAO Abridged is nothing short of fantastic. It's like the actors were born to play these roles, or at least born to make fun of them. Every line is delivered with perfect comedic timing. The voice actors really bring the characters to life in a way that the original series never quite managed. One of the best things about the voice acting in SAO Abridged is the way that the actors are able to convey so much humor and emotion through their voices alone. You don't need to see the characters' facial expressions or body language to understand what's going on. The voices tell the whole story. And let's not forget about the hilarious accents and impressions that some of the actors employ. The voice acting in SAO Abridged is top-notch. It's funny, it's engaging, and it's a major part of what makes the series so enjoyable to watch. These actors are the real MVPs of the show, and they deserve all the praise and recognition that they get. Each voice actor seems perfectly cast for their respective roles, and they do a much better job than the voice actors in the original series. SAO Abridged isn't just a hilarious parody of the Sword Art Online anime, it's also chock full of clever references to pop culture and video games. The writers of SAO Abridged have clearly done their homework, because there are references to everything. Even the way that the characters are portrayed is often a reference to other media. But it's not just the big references that make SAO Abridged so great. It's the little details too. The way that characters move, speak, and interact is often a clever reference to something else. What's really impressive about SAO Abridged is the way that it manages to incorporate all of these references without ever feeling out of place. It's like the writers are saying we love this stuff too, and we're going to show it some love by working it into our parody. And the result is a series that's not just funny, but also incredibly clever and detailed. So if you're a fan of pop culture or video games, there's plenty to love in SAO Abridged. And even if you're not, you'll still appreciate the way that the series pays attention to the details and works in these little references to create a truly immersive parody experience. The series pokes fun at all the flaws and ridiculousness of the original Sword Art Online anime, while still managing to tell a compelling story. From the moment you hear the first abridged voiceover, you know that you're in for a wild ride. The series is never afraid to make fun of its own characters or storylines. Even the most dramatic moments are often punctuated by a witty one-liner or a clever pop culture reference. And that's what makes SAO Abridged so great. It doesn't pretend to be something it's not. It's not trying to be a serious drama or a groundbreaking work of animation. Instead, it's just trying to have fun with the source material and make you laugh. And boy, does it succeed at that. If you're tired of watching anime that take themselves too seriously, SAO Abridged is the perfect antidote. It's a hilarious, irreverent parody that will make you laugh out loud. SAO Abridged is a true masterpiece of humor and heart. What makes it so perfect is its ability to balance hilarious comedic moments with genuine emotion and character development. The creators of SAO Abridged have managed to take the original story of Sword Art Online and turn it into a hilarious parody that is both original and funny. One of the reasons reasons why SAO Abridged is so successful is because of its ability to appeal to a wide audience. While it is a parody of the original Sword Art Online anime, it doesn't rely on inside jokes or references that only die-hard fans would understand. Instead, it uses universal humor that anyone can appreciate. Another key factor in the success of SAO Abridged is its ability to create likable and relatable characters. While the original anime was criticized for its one-dimensional characters, SAO Abridged gives each character a unique personality and backstory. This allows the audience to connect with the characters on a deeper level and care about their journey. Furthermore, what sets SAO Abridged apart from other parodies is its ability to balance humor with genuine emotional moments. While there are plenty of hilarious scenes in SAO Abridged, there are also moments of genuine emotion that make the audience care about the characters and their journey. This balance of humor and heart is what makes SAO Abridged such a special and beloved parody. SAO Abridged is the perfect blend of humor and heart because of its ability to appeal to a wide audience, create likable and relatable characters, and balance humor with genuine emotional moments. It is a true masterpiece of parody and a must-watch for anyone who loves comedy and great storytelling. One of the best things about SAO Abridged is how the creators are fully aware of the flaws in the original series and aren't afraid to call them out. Nothing is safe from their biting wit. The series is like a love letter to Sword Art Online fans, but instead of waxing poetic about the original, it's more like a tongue-in-cheek roast. The creators are clearly fans of the series, but they don't let that blind them to its faults. Instead, they embrace those faults and use them to create some of the funniest moments in the entire series. If you're a fan of Sword Art Online, but also recognize its flaws, SAO Abridged is the perfect way to enjoy the series, while also getting a good laugh at its expense. SAO Abridged is way more entertaining than the original. It has all the boring bits cut out and replaced with hilarious and thoughtful content. Plus, it pokes fun at the cringy dialogue and plot holes of the original, making it even more enjoyable to watch. If you're looking for a good laugh and an all-around better SAO experience, SAO Abridged is certainly the way to go. In conclusion, SAO Abridged is the parody series you need to watch. The characters are more interesting and likable, the writing is full of witty one-liners, and the voice acting is fantastic. SAO Abridged pokes fun at video game and anime tropes and pays attention to details and references to pop culture. SAO Abridged doesn't take itself too seriously, making for a parody that can be funny while still retaining the essence of the original. There's absolutely no reason to watch the original Sword Art Online series when the abridged version is so much better. SAO Abridged is far superior to the original series in every way imaginable. Watching SAO Abridged is like getting a free workout because you'll be laughing so hard. So what are you waiting for? Grab some popcorn and settle in for a wild, hilarious, and heartwarming ride. Get ready to laugh your way through the world of Sword Art Online.
Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a future upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.